This episode of Three Black Guys with a Mic is being brought to you by Wendy's. Wendy's has changed the value game all over again. Today, grab yourself a 4 for $4. A juicy junior bacon cheeseburger or crispy chicken BLT, large fry, 4-piece nugget, and a drink. You can always get it fresh, never frozen, at a participating Wendy's. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii. Now let's start the show.
First of all, let me tell you something. Lamont is just full of shit.
Sometimes my mama said, when you don't have nothing nice to say, you should be quiet.
People say that Stephen A. is a coon. You agree with that? Everybody got quiet on that one? Okay.
Are you drinking, man?
I don't know.
Are you drinking?
I don't even understand how you could even put Common and Bob Marley and Marvin Gaye. And even Marvin Gaye.
I'm saying, Lamont, who's on your iPhone, iPad? Who's in your playlist right now that ain't saying this?
Maynard, I know you a little bit on the right. And Lamont, I know you got that country club lifestyle. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is Three Black Guys with a Mic. Lamont, what's up?
Hey, man, I'm here, brother. How you?
You sound marvelous. You sound marvelous.
Your mic sounds great today, man.
Well, that's the problem. It's not a mic. I'm just on my fucking phone, and you're on speaker.
Oh.
You might need to return that microphone then.
You got a sensor jump off right now then.
Well, and another problem. I'm not even on the fucking Wi-Fi in the house. I'm on the regular Verizon line.
Ooh, you might need to get your money back from that AOL
Get your money back from
dial-up.
So I might well leave this alone then, right?
Right. Get off that peoplepc.net. Lamont logging in through Netscape.
Right. Get off that Black Planet. Black Planet.
Come on, man. Don't do me like that.
That's taking it back.
So ladies and gentlemen, we won't be here that long because it is Memorial Day, and all of us are enjoying this Memorial Day. So we just kind of wanted to just come and tell you guys to have a wonderful Memorial Day. We'll be back again next Tuesday, with the full episode of Three Black Guys with a Mic. I'm in Detroit. Maynard, where are you at? Are you in Philly? Are you in Delaware? Are you in Virginia? You in New York? Where you at?
I'm in VA, man. I'm just trying to enjoy it. It rained like terrible yesterday, but I put some food on the grill anyway.
What'd you put on the grill?
I jerked some chicken yesterday.
Whoa.
Yeah, right. Wait.
Whoa,
You made jerk
you
chicken.
jerked
You didn't
chicken?
jerk no chicken.
Yeah, you didn't jerk no chicken, bro.
No, boy. I jerked the chicken yesterday, boy.
Because if you jerk the chicken, we definitely want to send Child Protective Services to your neighborhood to see if you got chickens running around in the backyard.
Right.
That was enough.
Y'all tripping.
Hey, dude, you say you jerked the chicken, bro.
But I did make some jerk chicken too. I made some jerk chicken.
That's that's the term. You jerk chicken.
So give me your recipe. Can you give me your recipe?
I like a little Walker's Wood jerk seasoning. That's what I like to start with. I like to take and then I don't like the Walker's Wood barbecue sauce, jerk barbecue sauce.
You didn't
I think
make it
it's
from
too
scratch.
thin.
You didn't make the seasoning from scratch?
No. But then I
I got one
is
up on you because I made mine from scratch, boy. Anyway, keep going.
but what I will do is take the Walker's Wood seasoning as a sauce and mix that with a little bit of steak sauce, because it's really based on steak sauce anyway. There's a lot of vinegar and everything, and then I season the chicken up with the regular seasons, and then marinate it in my sauce, and then I jerk it the rest of the way over my open coal pot.
Man, you didn't see Rev Run and Justine when they made jerk chicken. You didn't get the recipe from them. That's where I got my recipe from.
I don't care about them.
How can you not care about Rev Run? This is the hip hop and politics show.
That's right, but he ain't. But it's
Run.
not. He might be a hip hop icon, but I don't trust in his food. I ain't trusting his food taste.
I don't know.
Hey, man, that's what we dealing with. We dealing with Maynard Scales. That's what we dealing with.
So Lamont, you take your food cues from Rev Run.
Well, first and foremost, I don't cook. I purchase. Okay. So all of that
country club lifestyle right
That's
there.
the
boy.
country
You know what
club.
I mean? I don't do. I purchase. I order and I get delivered or I pick up. You know what I'm saying? So let's get that
Baller.
clear.
That's just baller.
And number two, we are in an undisclosed bunker right now. We're not in the northeast part of the country. but we will be partaking in
Wait,
a little
is there
bit about.
something going on with the world that me and Maynard don't know about? That you in a bunker?
He in
No,
the
no, we
bunker.
good. It's just
He in the bunker.
Wait,
Listen, man.
was
We
we supposed
just-
to take cover on this
we-
Memorial Day weekend and we didn't know?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, 3 black guys with a mic would like to say, "Kiss your asses goodbye," because
Right.
obviously
Because it's going to be 1/3 of the black because he didn't give us the memo that the world is coming to an end, and him and his country club lifestyle and went to a bunker and Maynard and I in a damn backyard.
Right,
All I'm saying is that right now I'm in a bunker. We're taking care of a few things, and we're just trying to make it work. That's it. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna be all right.
we got to cut this short. I got to get my shovel and start digging. Try to so I can try to get me a bunker.
We got to hook up with the Duck Dynasty people and get us a damn bunker, man.
Some what they call it, the preppers. We got to be preppers from here on out.
Yeesh, man. Give everybody
Yo,
the memo.
what's up with Tiger Woods getting a DUI yesterday? Y'all up on that?
Tiger Woods is. How could you be mad at Tiger Woods, man?
He's spiraling out of control.
He's spiraling. He's been out of control though. Tiger Woods has been out of control.
True.
He's privileged. True. He's privileged. So what do you think's gonna happen to him? It's only
I don't know.
It goes back to Lamont saying it's all clicks and views, man. It's all clicks and views, man.
Yeah, it's clicks and views, bro. Don't worry about that.
Lamont's privilege. What's gonna happen to him?
I don't know.
We're gonna be okay, man. Relax. We're gonna be all right. Let's just get through the day. Let's make it all work, and everything's gonna be okay.
Before we go though, can we talk? We got to talk about Ben Carson because he talked about and Lamont. I know this is your man.
Yes, yes, it is.
But he did make his statement on Armstrong Williams, and I actually, honestly, kind of gotta agree with him. I gotta agree with Ben Carson a little bit. He did go on Armstrong Williams and say that poverty is a state of mind.
It is.
And I kind of gotta agree with him on that.
No.
I gotta
go ahead.
No,
y'all go ahead and make your point, man.
You don't think that poverty is a state of mind?
No. There's a depth. First of all, understand that I know that there are some people out here who want to talk about some things that you could just think away or whatever. And I understand you have to persevere. You have to, but that's to say poverty is a state of mind is to say slavery was just simply a state of mind. No, they were really whipping slaves. Listen, if you grow up in abject poverty in certain parts of this country, and that doesn't mean just because poverty exists doesn't mean that you can't overcome. And I think that's the part that he was trying to say. But it's more than a state of mind. A state of mind is just like, oh, I'm just depressed, or oh, I'm happy now, or oh, I'm upset. No, there's a lot more that goes into it. There are really people out here eating nothing. There are really people out here struggling. There are really people out here with no shoes and no new clothes and none of that and all that stuff. It's not just a state of mind. There is a legal definition of what poverty is. And if you're under a certain amount of money based on the family household size, that means you're living in poverty. That doesn't mean that you have to accept it as your destiny.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be a state of mind though?
No, it's not. No, it's truth. It's truth.
Let's dive into what he said. Okay, I think poverty. This is what Dr. Ben Carson said. I think poverty, to a large extent, is a state of mind. You take somebody, which this is the part I agree with. You take somebody who has the right mindset. You take everything from them and put them on the street, and I guarantee you, in a little while, they'll be right back there. You take somebody with the wrong mindset. You could give them everything in the world. They'll work their way right back to the bottom. I kind of got to agree with him on that. You don't agree with that?
I think that using the word poverty as being a state of mind is factually false. Listen, there are children who are born into poverty. They don't have many options about whether they were born into poverty or not. If your parents are poor, or poor. If your parents are rich, that means you probably are going to grow up with wealth, I should say. I'm not suggesting that the circumstances that you have today necessarily dictate to the circumstances that you will have in the future. We also can look at some other instances where, like, even something as simple as the movie Trading Places, Eddie Murphy traded places with Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd spun out of control. Poverty wasn't necessarily his state of mind. They took away all the tools that he used to get to where he was. And he didn't have anything else. That's an example. I know it's a movie, but that's an example. Eddie Murphy prospered. Eddie Murphy soared. But to say to a 5-year-old kid, I know that, your parents, you have 4 people living in a home, and your mother makes $16,000 a year, which qualifies you for being on, below the poverty line. That is all just a state of mind. The reality is that child is really living in a place where maybe there's not food every night.
So, man, let me ask you a question. Let me stop, because what you like to do on every episode, I think you just love to hear yourself talk. And I hear everything you're saying, but I have a question for you. And again, you may not be a part of what I like to call this part of this generation. I've heard people say that when they were younger, that they had no idea that they were poor because they grew up in a loving environment where, you're right, maybe they didn't have the Adidas tracksuit. Maybe they had the Adidas shoe that had like 5 stripes instead of 3. Or maybe they didn't have, filet mignon for dinner, but maybe they had corned beef hash or Spam. But
by the way,
mindset,
I've never seen a pair of Adidas that had 5 stripes. By the way,
watch this. Well, no, in Sears back in the day, in my mind,
not in Sears, because that's where everybody's mama went.
Yeah. I thought those 5 stripes were just a new version of what Adidas was at the time. You know what I mean? Or maybe that's what Mama told me, and we got to put that on the list with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny that we got to talk about. You know what I mean? But I mean, Maynard, have you ever heard that, that I had no idea that I was poor when I was growing up? Right. So
I didn't know that we were poor.
No, right, exactly. So what I'm saying is that you're being very matter of fact, which I do understand, but I think what the good doctor was trying to say is that...
Ooh, not the good doctor.
Yeah.
Not the good doctor.
Yeah, the good doctor.
Ooh, he don't want to mess up that tax bracket, boy, I tell you.
Yeah. I think what he was saying is he was being more in that mindset because, again, out of all of those other examples that you gave of the Dan Aykroyd and the Eddie Murphy, they may have had the physical wealth, but from a mental perspective, it was different. You know what I mean? So I hear what you're saying, but I need you just to put it through a different lens and understand that the state of mind is very important. And again, if you don't think you're poor, although again you may have the Adidas shoe with 5 stripes, you're not. This is just where we are in this economic state as of now, which doesn't mean that it'll always be in that way.
I think in so many ways we're saying the same thing.
I disagree because your version was the extended remix with the extended intro version.
What you said is because you're poor today doesn't mean that that's going to be what you're going to be tomorrow. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Did I not just say that, Spud?
No.
I did too.
You did say that, but you did kind of put it in. You guys are kind of saying the same thing, but I think that what you did, Maynard, and you can correct me.
Hold on. Why won't Lamont just tell the truth? Well, what's up with all the alternative facts, man? Why you spitting Conway in me? Why you spitting in Conway?
But you kind of put, I think, a little bit more of a financial or an economical price on it, right? Where you're saying and that's true. I mean, if you're making $16,000, you probably are below the poverty line. But in the sense of getting out of that poverty, if you are saying, you didn't know that you were poor. I don't know if we grew up poor or not. I can't say that because if you're defining it in regards to, what your income is, then I can't really justify that because I don't know. But I think that if you're in a, and again, this is where you can go back and forth with me on, if you're not making more than $16,000 a year, but your brain is saying, you know what? I know that I want to be rich. Let's take some of the people, okay? Jay-Z probably grew up poor. Puffy probably grew up poor. I mean, they made it out. I mean, I think it's the mindset, and I think that I'm not going to call him the good doctor, but I think that what Ben Carson was saying is that, hey, look, if your mindset is you can make it out of your, circumstances right here, if you got that mindset of, you know what, I got a lot of money, I had a lot of money. Let me take it like this. I had a lot of money and I lost it, but I can get it right back. Your mindset is that I'm not going to live like that. But the reverse of, oh, shoot, I've been living like this. I got a chunk of money and then I lost it all because I don't know how to use it. Then it is a mindset. Am I wrong on that?
We got quiet.
I was waiting for Lamont to go in and say, "Oh, thank God, you got it right." No. The thing is this, and listen, when you take certain examples of somebody who may have sold dope and moved up, that doesn't mean that's not even an example of anything except for that at some point you sold dope and to make some money. You take certain other examples of people maybe who had some unique talent and they struck it rich on a unique talent. That's great. And you can point to that. But if you really look at what I'm saying is, first of all, define the word poverty. And in America, poverty means being extremely poor. That doesn't mean that you don't have aspirations and dreams. I never said that. He's saying it's just a state of mind. No, there's a whole lot more to it than I just think that I'm poor. No, people are really poor. That's true. There are people who are really going home and not having food to eat. That's not just a state of mind. Because the thing about it is, if you normalize this as it's just a state of mind, then you say, well, it's just a state of mind. Just tell them to think they're not hungry. Just to tell them to think that the lights are on. Just tell them to just think that they're not rats and roaches crawling through their home. Just tell them just to think that they don't live in a pissy ass damn project. It's just a state of mind. No, people need real help. And the idea that he's saying it's just a state of mind, which you may not understand what he's really getting at, is Don Trump and Ben Carson are about to cut funding for HUD, and these people are just going to have to think that it's okay the way that they're living. And we're not going to help them. It's not just a state of mind. It's a reality.
Did you hear the entire interview?
Exactly, because he's somewhere else. What he just did, as I said before, Maynard likes to hear himself talk. So he went to the very extreme end of what I think that Dr. Ben Carson, where he was going. And what he said, you added this extra long, or I like to call it soliloquy, to what he said in the interview.
What's soliloquy mean, Lamont?
I have no idea, but I heard my mama say it when I was little. You know what I mean?
And it sounds good right now.
It sounded good when he said it. It sounded good when he said that shit.
But so I mean, I think we got to give him, and Maynard, I know you have this love, dislike, for the head of HUD, but I think you need to give him a chance, man. I think you need to, just kind of take in what he's saying a bit and not take it to the extreme.
I do have to ask, so Maynard, did you hear the entire interview that he did with Armstrong Williams?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But I do know before he did the interview, Trump budget asked for $6 billion in HUD cuts.
Right.
So that's what so we going to tell these people who are living on the fringes right now that just think it's going to be okay while we take $6 billion of aid away from helping you maybe making your lives better.
This is
so that we can give tax cuts to the rich.
You're the political, guru on this show. So correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what it sounds like to me. What I've heard, and I heard, Dr. Ben Carson say this, on Armstrong Williams. I've also heard, a couple of other people in the Trump administration. I can't name who at the point, but it sounds to me as if the Trump administration is trying to get people off of government assistance, which we all know is the Republican way, and more back to work, i.e. they're trying to move the economy, from 2% to 3% in regards to growth, which we all know that's a very hard thing to do. But they said that if they can get the economy moving from 2% to 3%, then they probably can get more people back to work and they can get more people to be a little bit more self-sufficient, which goes on to my point in regards to Dr. Ben Carson on Armstrong Williams. They were saying basically what his whole point is that if we can get people basically self-sufficient, then they really won't have to rely on the government, and they will have to, they will have their own responsibility. And I use that example because he talked about, and Maynard, you've said this as well, in regards to owning your own home. And he said, if you can get somebody to own their own home, the responsibility of that and the, I guess, fulfillment of that, helps in regards to making someone feel better. So is their goal to actually get people off of government assistance and get them working on their own? And isn't that what we all want?
Sure, you can say that. I mean, but you also have to look at the fact that who are we benefiting by doing this? We're turning around and putting wealthy people on other types of government assistance. We call it something different. We call them subsidies, we call them tax breaks. We incentivize farmers not to plant certain crops, and we give them money when their crops fail. We tell billionaires, we tell millionaires and billionaires, go ahead and build in Florida and build in flood lines and build in places, and FEMA will pick up the bill when your home floods. Is that not government assistance? So we do the same thing. It's stupid to build on a damn cliff in California where they got wildfires every year. But you know what? The government bails those people out to the tunes of several more millions of dollars to one family than they give to a whole bunch of poor families. So it's one thing. There are lots. Listen, it's easy to believe that people who live in poverty, people who live on public housing operating fund money, people who live on public housing capital fund dollars, people who live on Section 8, people who live on housing vouchers, it's easy to believe that they're the worst of the worst, and they just need to just change their mind and get it. But there are people out there who are receiving that assistance, who are trying to get ahead, and in the middle of trying to get ahead, somebody takes 34% of your budget away from you. Like, oh, I'm almost there. I'm just going to make it. I'm climbing. Oh, and then somebody adds a third of the distance that you had to go. They just moved the finish line a third further out. That's not encouraging. That's discouraging. And that's not the country that we are. We take care of each other. We don't leave people out to dry.
No, I know we take care of each other, but shouldn't there get to a point to where it's like you got to start to take care of yourself?
That is to say that everybody who's in the project stays there for life. That's to say that everybody
is that a yes or no? Is it a yes or no?
There are lots of people who are doing that. Most people,
no.
It's a no. It's a no. I am not answering that question because it's false.
You just answered it by saying no.
It's false on its face.
Right.
It's intellectually false. People are out here saying that. What if you believe this narrative, then that means everybody who's in Section 8 is destined to be in Section 8 for generations to come. There are people who are really trying to make it.
The mindset, though. That goes back to the mindset.
Correct.
If you're on Section 8 and you want to stay there, then your mindset is going to be, this is all I want.
If you believe that narrative, but there are so many people who are progressing away from it. We're talking about right now, what they're basically saying is we're going to cut $6.8 billion away in fiscal year 18, not over a 10-year budget, in 1 year.
But let me ask you this, Maynard. And I'm following you, and you're right. But if they do that, would that force people? Isn't this tough love to say, you've been on the system all this time. We've taken this away.
That's a false narrative.
How's that a false narrative?
Because people have not been on this. This is the thing that they try to promote to you.
Agree that there have been people who have abused the system, though.
There are, yeah, sure. And so, okay. And Jared Kushner is a billionaire who stole money and blah blah. And there are people who've done things all over the place. But that's to say that everyone who's on these systems remains on these systems. This goes back to Reagan's welfare queen statement in the 80s that all these black women are out here just having babies just so they can get a $400 check.
Well, they were.
No, that's false. That's false. Most black women were out here having babies to get a $400 check. Think about what you just said.
I mean, I don't want to say most. Let me take that back. You're right about that. Let me take that back.
But what happens is these people get an opportunity to start painting black and brown people in a way, and then we buy into that and we say, yeah, we got to get rid of this. We got to get rid of this stuff. And then what we see happen, like it happened in the Reagan administration when they had austerity cutbacks, is crime went through the roof. People started being more desperate. People said, well, shit, I'm not getting the assistance, so I have to sell more dope. Or women started prostituting. All these other things occurred. All these other ills, all these social ills occurred. But under Clinton, these social ills went down, and we had the work to welfare program. We had the welfare to work program, and that was working. And what they're saying now, it's time for us to snatch the rug up from underneath of people.
But
That's
are they
not,
wrong though in that, man? And I'm sorry
they
that
are
because
wrong.
we all know that you like to dominate the conversation, and I'm gonna let Lamont get in here. But is that to the point of Donald Trump that you've been doing it for 30 years and none of that stuff has worked, and I'm gonna come in, which we all know he's not draining the swamp, change the narrative of what it's going to be, and we're going to get people back to work again. Isn't that to his point though?
All right, go. I mean,
I'm asking.
Whoa,
I mean,
whoa. All
Go
that
with it.
stuttering.
Go
All
with
what? Huh?
go with it. Go with it. I mean, that's fine. Go with it.
no, I don't want to go with it. I really want to know because if I'm
I've
wrong
been trying
on
to
that,
tell you the same thing, but you keep telling me, nah, but isn't it? And I'm saying it's not true.
Okay,
Lamont?
man, you're right. No, I mean, here's my thing with Maynard and anybody else is that nothing.
Don't be with me, just be with the subject. Don't be with me. Don't make this about me. Make this about the topic.
No. Spud said it best. What you like to do is you like to dominate the conversation. You like to what some people may call pontificate, and I do know what that means.
What's that mean, Lamont?
You like
What's
to
that
hear
mean?
yourself talk.
What's that mean, Lamont?
You just
That
looked that
means
one
you
up.
hear yourself talk. That's pontification.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Maynard
today for
just-
Memorial Day is pontificate.
Word for the day.
Is pontification. Now, nothing is absolute. So when you talk about a false narrative, you're right. You're going to have a certain segment of people that are and have and will abuse the system. They will have babies to get a check because I personally know some people that do that. So for you to say that that's a false narrative, that's incorrect.
No, I
Okay?
said that he tried to make it seem as all these women were doing that.
No, that's a lie. You said
Go back
that
and listen.
that was a false narrative. Spud, is that not what he said?
Okay, he did say that.
Yeah, he did say
But
that. He
when
said
I
it was
said when I said it to you,
Maynard,
then Spud
Maynard,
turned around and said, "You
listen.
right, all of them are doing it." And I said, "No, Spud, it's not
No,
all." And then
you're
Spud said,
sounding
"You're right, I
like
did it,
Ayana
and you
Von
changed
Zant
it."
right now, spewing out. Yes, that's fresh off my brain because I saw her with the three ladies and the mama that was a crackhead that was 50 years old with the 6 kids. You sounding really retarded like Ayana right now.
Nah,
So what I'm saying, and we can roll the tape back, that what you said was that it was a false narrative of what it is that he said. And what I'm saying is that it's not a false narrative because there is a certain segment, whether it be small, medium, or large, there are some people in this country that do things to go against the system. Period. And all he's saying is that listen, we can't have that mindset. Yes, there are some people who are poor from a financial perspective because I also think there's certain other levels of poverty, whether it be in an emotional space, a psychological space, that some people don't suffer from. Poverty does not always mean financial. And again, that's just my opinion. So I think we just have to be careful when we talk about that because, again, I do know, just like you do, Maynard, as well, with your suburbanblack.com. So we're going to make sure we pub that properly. Is that in the suburban community, as they say there, that's where where the quote unquote financial income is at a higher rate, but they actually have one of the highest rate of drug uses. And not
I think you're not understanding what my suburbanblack.com life is. It's not what you think. But go ahead.
okay, well, I hear you all that. That's great, but I'm just talking about what other people may consider to be the suburbs. Is that's where a lot of, although the grass may be greener and more manicured, but behind those closed doors, there's just so much, whether it be alcohol abuse, whether it be,
heroin,
substance abuse,
cocaine,
heroin abuse. I mean, all of those kind of things. So again, I think because we may say that those environments are not impoverished, I think in other aspects they are. So again, I'm with you. It's some girls out here still selling their booty because, like you said earlier, they ain't got no money, or they selling dope because they think that extra little $500 on the once they pay the re-up money, that's gonna get them through the month when they can take their butt to Wendy's and probably make more money working 30 hours a week. But that's a whole nother conversation. So again, in my pontificating Maynard holiday mode, just nothing is absolute, man. That you got to give Ben, a little bit of leeway in his interview, and he's not all wrong. That's all I'm saying. On this one, he's not all wrong.
These things are absolute. These things are absolute. That Ben Carson is the HUD director. That's absolute. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that in order to get public assistance for housing, whether it's living in what we typically call the projects or Section 8 or other types of housing vouchers, that you absolutely must meet certain guidelines. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, those things
mostly
are
financial. Mostly financial.
Right. And that the government sets these guidelines. For instance, a household of 4 making $28,000 or less absolutely falls in the poverty line, or below the poverty line. Those are absolutes. Okay. With that much being said, when Donald Trump's budget,
the roll with the correct. I thought you were going to hit me with the, am I correct on that one? But you
he fell down on that one.
Okay. So when Don Trump
roll with the am I correct part, but
when Don Trump's budget introduces a $6.8 billion 1-year cut in the first year, we don't know what he wants to introduce for fiscal year 19, but for fiscal year 18, he wants to slash. Let's just keep it as a round number. Let's just. No, I'm not going to do it. We're going to stay with the number, $6.8 billion. There are people who are living on the margins. People who are living in places, and I don't mean the addresses. I don't mean the geographical location. I mean, they're living between a rock and a hard place. And the idea that you ask this black man to run this portion of the government, HUD, and then you turn around and you systematically dismantle it, and then you send him out here to go give the message that, hey, don't you worry, it's just how you think about things. It's not how it really is.
But can I go?
So would it have been different if it was a white man? If it was a white man, it would have been different.
It's the same thing. But Don Trump just knows what he's doing.
Why do you have to focus on it being a black man? I'm curious.
Because he went and got someone who was totally unqualified for running anything this large.
But let me ask you this, man. Let me ask you this.
Because he's using him as a pawn. That's why I used it. He's using Ben Carson as a pawn. A man that he called a molester, he turns around and gives him the job to oversee a $6.8 billion cut where basically black and brown people are concerned. In the meantime, he turns around and gives the richest and the wealthiest 1% that same $6.8 billion that goes into their pockets because they just don't want to make jobs because they don't make enough money.
But in America, there are more white people who are in poverty than black people.
Right, but the idea is they have to. Because Lamont, because what America has, what Americans and particularly wealthy white people have decided to do is they've convinced Americans. Let me not say you. They've convinced Americans that poverty is a poor black person's problem. It's a brown person's problem. That we are giving our tax dollars away to black people, and we don't want to do that. That's nasty. We don't want to give black people money. We want to inspire Apple to make better products so they can save their $230 million in taxes over in Ireland instead. No. They have made black people and brown people the enemy. And that makes it easy. They sleep at night just the way Cat Williams talked about insurgents and insurgents. You want to kill the insurgents? I don't have no insurgent friends. You kill all of the asses.
But can you define where
out of the Cat Williams
who's getting the tax breaks? Because I want to make sure that people are following along with our narrative, right? So Department of Labor is down. I mean, Department of Justice is down. Of course, what we're talking about is Department of Housing and Urban Development is down. Department of Homeland Security is up. Department of Education is down, which I don't get that one at all. Department of Transportation is down. Department of Defense is up. Department of Veteran Affairs is up. So where's the winning at in these budget cuts?
The winning goes to the people who enslave and imprison black and brown bodies.
So do you think that this is this is black and brown bodies, which I know you're gonna answer, but or is this poor people versus rich people? Because there are some white people who are poor.
That's true, and some white people do get swept up in that black and brown body too. I understand that they are white and they're not black or brown, as Lamont would be like, "You just Smitty and Conway." Nah, anybody trying to hear all that. But what they do, this is what happens, and it's a real. We sat down and we were in Detroit. We sat down at that the what was it, the Detroit Seafood Market, and we spoke with those sisters who were teachers,
right?
And we discovered that. All right, so what they're going to do is they're going to take this $7,000 or $8,000 and say, "Hey, we want to give you this money, and we're not going to give it to the school district. We're going to give it to you." And then you go out and find the school of your choice. You decide, "Oh, well, great." Now, if you're a certain, I think we lost Lamont. If you're a certain kind of person, you can take that $8,000 and you can go and find you a private school. That's wonderful. But there are people out there where the private school may be $16,000 and the $8,000 doesn't cut it for them. So, Lamont, you with us?
Was that me or that was y'all?
That was you. That was you. All right.
Verizon was like, y'all. Verizon was like, Lamont, you said 10 minutes. You at 30. You know, Verizon, all Lamont. You said it's supposed to be the short one, but but okay, it's all good.
So anyhow, when they cut schools, they're cutting. I don't know why every Republican comes in. The first thing they do is they say we want to cut schools. That's the first thing that they say. Go back and look at the 2012 campaign. Stupid Rick Perry got up there and said, "When I get to Washington, I'm gonna cut 3 departments. I'm gonna eradicate 3 departments: education, energy, and I don't remember the last one, but education was one of them." They always do that. The reason why is because they're sending a message to people in Idaho, in Iowa, in Montana, that you shouldn't have to pay for black people in Brooklyn to not get A's in school. You shouldn't send your federal money from Wyoming to inner city Philadelphia. We don't want you to.
But let's go with that. Okay, let's go with that right there, because you hit the nail on the head. But Maynard, isn't that a true statement?
No,
how could that not be true? I understand.
What do you mean true? What do you mean true? You think that we don't? You think we shouldn't do that? You think the federal government should not?
Do you think that people in Idaho, people in Montana, people in Iowa should be paying for students who are not performing in Brooklyn? Which goes back to the mindset of, and we talked about this before. We talked about this, I think, in the last episode of, if we know these things are coming. Right? We see the writing on the wall. You're making the case right now, Maynard, of, hey, this is what's happening to you, to black and brown people. Our goal of this podcast is to be able to educate those who can't see these things coming. And I'm glad that you're educated enough to be able to present this narrative to people who don't understand the bigger picture. That is the bigger picture. What I'm asking you is that if we know these things are coming, to Dr. Ben's point, which is a little, I'm stretching here, but to Dr. Ben's point, shouldn't our mindset change in order for us to not suffer under the things of Department of, urban development, being cut, Department of Education being cut? Shouldn't we be preparing ourselves to change our mindset to grow out of these things?
I'm not saying this is either or. I'm not saying either you give us the money or we go, or finally we'll grow up. I'm saying it's a both and. We need to have schools funded. We need to have housing projects funded. We need to have roads funded. We need to have all these things funded, so we take care of Americans. And at the same time, we need to incentivize and encourage people. And there's a difference between carrots and sticks. A carrot is, hey, I'm gonna chase this carrot. That's gold. A stick is, I'm gonna beat you over the head until you do what I think you're gonna do, what I want you to do, or you die. One or the other. Carrots and sticks work in certain instances, but we need to use fewer sticks and more carrots.
Follow me on this, Lamont. Did Maynard last week say he got one daughter? He can't raise all the other black kids.
Exactly. Right.
Okay. So Maynard, should a person who's in Idaho or in Montana be worried about raising all the other black kids?
Yes.
Oh,
Children are 100% of our future.
but you not you ain't worried about all the rest of the black kids.
But you know what I'm comfortable doing? I'm comfortable making certain that my taxes that support schools is there. I'm comfortable voting for people who say we put schools and we put the least of us ahead of the most of us. I'm comfortable voting for those kinds of people. I mean, no, I can't go down the street and raise all these children. No, I can't do that. They're not mine. But I do recognize that I can volunteer, I can vote for the right people, and I can advocate for the right policies.
So Spud and Maynard, can I read you both something? Because I just want to make sure I'm clear. Okay. The correct definition of the word pontificate is.
You late. You late.
No. But I gotta,
everybody else who's listening to the podcast didn't Google that a long time
right,
ago.
Right. What that one AT&T commercial? That was so 47 seconds ago.
Right.
but this brings home what Maynard just said and the incorrect. I should say incorrect, and his change of thinking from the last episode, because it's defined as expressing one's opinion in a way that is considered to be annoyingly pompous and dogmatic. Last week, you didn't give a shit about the rest of the kids, especially the black kids all around the world. Now, today, you're talking about you.
Can you demonstrate for me how I didn't give a shit about nobody?
Let me finish. Today, and we don't know the exact tax amount. Let's just say it's $5,000 to $7,000 to $10,000 that you may pay in tax money. But maybe it's $20,000 annually, and you're just going to throw it at the wind and hope that we can save the children.
Okay, Mick Mulvaney. Oh, y'all on some Mick Mulvaney biz right now. Y'all on some Mick Mulvaney biz.
That's where we at
See
right
how
now.
it's going down.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because Spud, last week he didn't care about the kids. Am I right?
He couldn't raise all the little black kids in the city.
Yeah, it's like, oh, damn them kids. I got to worry about mine and make sure mine is this. Now today, he's going to give up his 36% of his annual salary and pay it in taxes because he's comfortable with that, and let them kids get it how they live. Right?
You know, again, I vote for the kind of candidates who will support the programs that I value. And I do value these. My father spent his life working in public housing, and I learned a lot of lessons as a result. He worked in the public housing for 42 years. And I learned a lot of lessons as a result. I saw how people were living. I support the work that he did, the work that my grandfather did, the work that my Congressman Bobby Scott does, my Mayor Kenny Alexander does. I support that. I support the work and the efforts that Barack Obama had. That's how I do what I'm supposed to do. No, I can't raise everyone's child. Can't be done. But what I can do is support the people who I think have those people's interests at mind, at heart. And if you are going down the Mick Mulvaney route, which is we don't think that serving kids food is getting the outcomes that they should have, therefore we are just going to stop serving kids food and let them just be hungry, then go with it. Go with that. I was trying to give Mick Mulvaney the cactus a couple weeks ago, based on that. But
let's keep it moving real quick before we go, because I know it's Memorial Day and we went way longer than what we were supposed to go. But I do have to ask Lamont real quick. Irv Gotti announced that there's a Murder Inc. partnership with 300. He said that the partnership with these guys who I had all my success with these guys who are my day ones, Kevin Lyles, Leor Cohen. He couldn't be more happy than to, partner with 300. Lamont, is this a good look for Irv Gotti? Will this help Irv Gotti? And poor Ja Rule, will this bring Ja Rule back to the forefront, or is this a lose-lose situation?
Well, it's lose-lose for Ja Rule, but I don't think the Murder Inc. is about the old Murder Inc. that we may know. I think it's about, as they call it, the second installment. You know what I mean? I think it's about Irv being able to, introduce some new, younger talent, and I don't see why not. I mean, let's give it a shot. Is 300
moving like that though? I mean, they did a good job with T Grizzly. I shout out to T Grizzly.
Yeah, but here's the real deal with 300, and we all know, and everybody know that's my man, and I love him. But they're a very small, intimate house, so it's not like it's the same of what Def Jam was in the beginning days. So when Def Jam had a lot of their hit records that we all know that Maynard loves, in those beloved 80s and 90s, and even in those 2000s, they weren't really a big label. So I think that kind of
But
old
not for
school.
Maynard. Only the '80s. Other
Oh,
than
in the 80s
everything
for Maynard.
outside of that, everything beyond that,
How
Maynard's
did you
not Maynard.
how did you ask Lamont a question about 300 and then y'all talking about me?
I just wanted
I'm
to
just
be. I
saying.
want the audience to be clear that anything
Yeah,
that was beyond, a nation of million, it takes us hold. A nation of million, it takes to hold us back. Whatever that is, anything after that, you wasn't with it.
yeah, yeah. You wasn't with it. You know what I'm saying? And it's okay, man. So again, I think it's good. I think it goes back to what I like to have is those incubator situations, those incubator labels that kind of are able to pay attention to some of the small things. Kevin and those guys, like you said, that's how it was in the beginning days. When those guys started getting a lot of money, things started to get a little sloppy. So I think it's a good thing. I'm kind of excited when I heard that too. So it's all good.
Man, you think this is a good look?
No.
Oh.
Is that because you don't understand anything prior 1988 with Def Jam, or does what does that mean?
It means let's just wait and see. I really.
You don't think that you wasn't a Ja Rule fan. You weren't an Ashanti fan?
I mean, I was all right. I was all right with Ashanti. I was all right with Ja. Do I think that Ja has more hits left in him? No. Um. No, I just don't. I just don't see it. I don't see where it's like all. Look, there's going to be one or two acts. What's it take? 2 acts to be like, oh, this is all of a sudden successful? That takes more than that. And I don't think it's going to be. I don't think we're going to see.
So you don't
You know,
see you don't see 300 as successful right now. I mean, they had a good lick with T Grizzly. Who else did they sign? Lamont.
Actually, they got a couple of rock groups that are doing okay out here, and of course, those names escape me. But I remember seeing, some of the data, the sales data, the airplay data on it. They were doing pretty good. I saw 300 next to them, but so they kind of a little diversified over there. But I don't. Again, I think Maynard is, he's just stuck when it comes to that arena, and that's okay.
Lamont, I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not
let's
talking
go through
about
some of the
you.
artists real quick. Young Thug, Day Day, Birth of a Nation. Who else do they got on here? T Grizzly.
What's that song, "Birth of a Nation" got?
No, I'm sorry. This is Birth of a New Nation. My bad.
I mean, what's that? What's the name of that song they got?
I don't know. That's the first time.
Exactly. Killing me.
So
I'm
so
supposed
what
to
are you
get
saying?
excited
What are you
about
saying, man?
about a
What
group
are you
that
saying?
nobody. I mean, because we just saying stuff out. We just saying stuff like, oh, they signed Lamont.
I mean, but
They signed Lamont.
But for a boutique label, to have what? Fetty Wap, Young Thug, Day Day, T Wayne. I mean, they got like, T Grizzly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, they got like 40 acts on here. For a boutique label to have 40 acts, that's not a success.
Or they got 40 successful acts.
I can't say that.
They got 10 successful acts. Like I'm talking about since signing.
Young Thug is successful.
So Maynard, I mean not Maynard.
I can only speak to the hip hop people.
No, Maynard, let me get this. I mean not Maynard. What's your name, Spud? Let me get this real quick. And man, I'm gonna take you to school, and don't you ever forget this. As Barry Gordy, as Clive Davis, who were some people may say were some of the greatest record men ever. Always remember that they had more failures than successes. Always. Don't never, ever forget that. Which means he lost more than he won in terms of the amount of acts. But the acts where he won, they were so big, like the Jacksons and Diana Ross and all those other great people at Motown. And even at Arista in his day. And we could talk about the same statistic at Atlantic Records, or we could talk about Stax, or even your homeboys, Philly International. There were more failures that Gamble and Huff had than successes. So I think you have to give 300 the same or the benefit of the doubt of those same people that are worth of those iconic status. That's just what it is.
All I'm saying to that, Lamont, is like, for instance, the Fetty Wap the Fetty Wap joint hasn't dropped yet. So we talking about, say, for instance, the Fetty Wap from 15. That was cool, but and we're not.
It was cool? What do you not understand the financial
hold
success that it brought to that company?
Lamont, let me finish. What I'm saying is the Fetty Wap joint from 15 was the 300 Fetty Wap joint. It's not the 300 Murder Inc. Fetty Wap joint. And so before we start saying we know that this Fetty Wap, this next one is going to be dope, we have to wait.
Let's kind of clarify, because Murder Inc. is partnering with 300 to bring Murder Inc. back to the table. Fetty Wap is on 300. He's not going to be on 300.
But the question is this a good look? Is everybody winning as a result? Is Murder Inc. blowing up in 300? And what I'm saying is, I don't know that. You said, is this a good look for Murder Inc.? I said no. That was my default position. No, I don't. I got to wait and see. Do I really think
Migos is on 300?
Okay, but that's
okay.
That's fine. That's 300. That doesn't mean that Murder Inc. is going to win. Would you ask me, what do I think about this as far as this a good look for Murder Inc.? And what did I say?
You said you gotta wait and see. You don't believe so.
I said initially my default position was no.
Okay, so but the point is,
so then tell me. So
the record label has some success with the label. So partnering with the label that has some success in this space should have some success with Murder Inc., right?
Maybe.
If you believe,
maybe. I remember
when they go on Oprah. Do you not think that if we go on Oprah, that we're probably likely going to have some success? Even though I do remember, you know what I'm saying, Jeff Majors went on Oprah and that didn't
Whoa! You talking about the chairwoman's person?
Hey, man, I'm just saying. That was 19-something, so, you know, I can tell you that was 2000-something.
I do remember when I had my video show and they said, you ain't going to call 212, blah, 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 no more for Motown video. You're going to call Diane Earl over here at Mercury, and because she's handling Motown. I said, oh, well, Motown and Mercury, where's Motown now, Lamont?
When you said, where is Motown?
Mm-hmm.
Well, their offices technically. Yeah, they're in New York and L.A.
Yeah, what they got?
See, you got to be careful with that, man. And here's what I say when I mean that.
There was a simple answer. Oh, they got the biggest hits ever, but they don't.
No.
The partnership did not yield what everyone thought it was going to yield. We thought that AOL and Time Warner was going to result in this huge company.
Wait, what partnership are you talking about? Partnership with Motown and Mercury? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, when they got folded in.
Well, first of all, you have to understand that Mercury, and that's what I was going to say before, you started your dogmatic dominating of the conversation, as you always do, is that label names are retired and they're kind of brought back to the forefront. For example, you may remember back in, I think in the 40s or 50s, there was a company called Decca. You remember that? Or even the 30s, I think. You remember that?
I remember the 40s and the 50s. No, I wasn't even born. But okay. I do know, I know what you speak. I can't remember something, but I have knowledge of it.
Well, all I'm saying is that label names are retired. And then they, after so long, sometimes they'll bring it back and sometimes they won't. And then also major companies that buy all these particular labels, they like to shuffle names around, for certain things like market share, because they may want the market share to be a little bit more at this label than they may be over there. So they may move this artist strategically to a different label just to make sure that their balance sheet, it's kind of like a Wall Street game at times. So I just think we got to be careful, especially with, kind of trying to shit a little bit on the Motown name as you were trying to do.
Because listen, hold on, let's go through Motown.
It's like a Wall Street game,
Let's go through Motown. Yeah. And Lamont, you in Chicago right now. Motown, BJ the Chicago Kid, Rich Homie Quan, that's a win.
Right.
Lil Yachty, that's a win. Erykah Badu, that's always gonna be a win.
Yeah.
Neo, that's a win. Kim, that's always gonna be a win. And they even got your Philly man, Chocolate Dropper. They got Kevin Hart on Motown.
This is Chocolate Dropper. Now watch this. Now watch you start getting on his nuts. Go ahead, Maynard. You've got the floor now.
No, I just didn't understand how Motown went from having back in. You know what? I'm not gonna go. You said it was like Wall Street.
Yeah, it is. No, seriously.
It is. Yeah, I agree. And I think Wall Street also shares with us that sometimes they have successes and a lot of times they have failures
Most of the time they have failures. Most of the
when they merge
Yeah,
when they merge
it's more
companies.
failures than success.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I remember there used to be something called Sprint Nextel. That just kind of just
Hey man, the Sprint Nextel, where you at though? That was a dope campaign.
do you still say Sprint Nextel? You got a Nextel phone?
I had one, but I don't.
Right. It's gone.
Is anybody
I
chirping
remember
anymore?
when
Nobody
was
chirps their
Sony
phones anymore.
Sony Ericsson. That just kind of AOL and Time Warner gone. So, these are big companies that you can use your same example. Well, this company had some success and this company had some success. You know what? That's like peanut butter and jelly. You put them together, it's supposed to be good. No, sometimes it's not.
Well, be very
Sometimes
clear.
it's
I don't
soft.
like peanut butter and jelly, man.
Hey,
So
man, listen,
it's
I
not,
like
that's
peanut
not
butter
good.
and
Hey, I
jelly,
love
and every
peanut butter and
time
jelly.
I
I
put
love
peanut
peanut butter
butter
and jelly.
on my jelly sandwich, it's always good.
I like mine crunchy. I like crunchy.
I'm good. I'll pass.
Let me ask two questions before we go. Last week we talked about the wives are off limits, but we gotta talk about the wives. Trump went on his international tour. Is that what it is, man? His international tour.
Yeah.
Melania was giving him no love. I mean, the man can't even hold her hand. What is going on in the household? I mean, the man can't even get a handhold. He can't even hold hands with his wife. What is going on? Why won't she hold my man's hand?
I'm not touching it, Lamont. It's all you.
I mean, watch this. I'm like the lady showing her cooch. I can't touch that either, bro. Like, yo, man, like, I mean, and what we can do is we can speculate.
But Maynard, isn't she being disrespectful though? I mean, isn't that
No.
That's not? I mean,
No.
come on.
No.
That's not being
But I'm
disrespectful.
gonna tell you what. No, Spud. No, I'm gonna tell you what's disrespectful. And Maynard, you can help me out on this. When 45 was walking in with the other dudes from the G7, I think it was, and he pushed. I don't know, was that the guy from France or Mexico? When he pushed the other world leader out the way for him to get in the front, did you see that?
Yeah.
Now to
Then
me,
then he shrugged his shoulders a little. He brushed his shoulders off, and
yeah. So to me, I mean, if that's what he's doing to another world leader, just imagine what he's doing to his wife behind closed doors. You know what I'm
but
saying?
they ain't seen each other. She don't even come to DC.
Hey,
So,
man.
but and every week you figure like this, Lamont. And if you were working out of town, let me just ask a question. I don't know. I know y'all live in Bergen County, right? And
Yes,
if
yes, we do.
if you had to work 5-6 days a week in Dallas, Texas, or in Baltimore, Maryland, on Saturday when you had some free time, wouldn't you want to go home and be with your lovely wife?
Absolutely. We in these streets. Yeah.
What does Donald Trump typically do most weekends?
He does run what's that?
Mar-a-Lago.
Florida?
Play golf.
Mar-a-Lago. Right. He ain't with his wife. She's still in New York. She in New York Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday as well, while he down there playing golf, giving away secrets to some Japanese people or whoever he was with. But this is what I wanted to say. If y'all go back and check the record, I said this a long time ago. Angela Merkel is the leader of the free world today. What did she say this weekend? She said, yo, I'm telling y'all, the rest of the West, which is, basically all of Europe, we ain't waiting on America no more. America ain't here for us. We checking out on that at this point. We done. And she carries a whole lot more sway with France, Italy, obviously Germany, England, and all those countries than Donald Trump. She's the leader of the free world. He has abdicated that position. And it is disrespectful for him to be trying to grab Melania, and Melania don't want no parts of it. She's right. She shouldn't participate in this foolishness. Just to answer the questions.
Yeah, but she should at least be able to be presidential, though, or politically correct. I mean, it's everywhere.
What did Lamont say? We don't know if he grabs a cooch right in front of her, and she see that right before they got off the plane or whatever.
Why? We were really on a good roll with being.
That's what Lamont said. And Lamont
we were really on a good roll without being disrespectful.
We don't know.
My man's out here. He's grabbing cooches in front of his wife. That's what you're saying.
No, he could be. Yes,
he could be.
Yes,
he could be.
Right, and don't care about it either. And what's my man name from that who's out here in these streets trying to get some money now because he can't get a job? The guy that was interviewing Donald Trump when he talked about grabbing him by the cooch.
Oh, Billy Bush.
Billy Bush.
Yeah, Billy Bush was at the unemployment office. I saw him the other day. TMZ was following him. You know what I'm saying? Homie in these streets, like, somebody please interview me.
You saw him at the post office?
Nah, no, he's at the unemployment office. It's 2 doors down from the post office. You know what I'm saying? And it's hard for Billy out here, man. So ain't no telling what Donald's doing. Donald's a hot mess, man. He really is. But
So
that's
Billy
Raiders
Bush,
guy.
you the one out here supporting all his people, getting your taxes, and you and Ben Carson getting your. Look, and the other day you sent us a photo. You getting your nails done, you getting your feet done.
Whoa.
Was Ben Carson next to you?
I gotta edit this part out of the podcast. I gotta edit this out, man. Why you dry snitching, man? Why you dry snitching?
Hey, everybody needs a manicure,
But
pedicure
that don't
every once in a
necessarily
while.
mean he wanted to know where, he might have been somewhere where he wasn't supposed to be at that time.
Exactly, Maynard.
He's
He's just dry snitching, bro.
Man, he got stalkers in these streets. You got people who be following him.
Now we need to slow down because there is a strong possibility that some names might get dropped. Who's stalking
I ain't
you,
say
Lamont?
nothing.
Who's stalking you, Lamont?
Y'all on mute right now, man. I'm disconnecting. I'm here, but I'm gone.
I mean, if you and Ben Carson are up in the hotel, chilling, talking about how y'all about to take over, how y'all gonna get these Negroes to think that they just on poverty because it's their mind, and then in the same turn around and send them some new rap records from 300 and Murder Inc. together just to teach them that you need to be think about that, Molly and Percocet, that, whatever the freak. Then yeah, you're right. And so the whole, that's the part that is so freaking malicious that you get to sit here, and I don't come at you, Lamont, but I'm gonna come at you for a second.
I'm gonna sit back then.
You get to sit here and say poverty is a state of mind. These people need to get up off their own ass and start doing their own thing because they blah, 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 blah. And then turn around and say, you comfortable getting some checks off of some foolishness that really helps to enslave our minds. I'm really concerned about that.
Ooh. He came after
You ready?
Lamont. Yes, I am.
Ready?
I'm sitting back. Hold on.
Make sure we got some.
I'm waiting. All right, go.
Okay. I agree with you, Maynard.
Oh, come on, Lamont. You're not supposed to agree.
No. I have been a part of a music
Enslaving our minds.
Yeah, no. A music industry that for years has given us probably the same amount of bad nutrition just as McDonald's or probably some of the local grocers in the urban community that sell brown meat. And just like in any other urban community where
But not
Maynard,
Wendy's, because Wendy's sells nothing but fresh food every single day.
There's no cause for laughter after that. We'd like to thank Wendy's for their partnership.
We want to definitely thank Wendy's for their partnership.
Yeah. But you notice I said McDonald's, I didn't say Wendy's. Anyway,
Right.
Yeah. I agree with you, bro. I mean, I have no, qualms or to say that there are some bad stuff that's put in the music, but at the same time, there also is some good stuff that's in the music. And I will say this: I have been a part of projects that have preached about love, or talked about family, talked about mental empowering ventures. So I think that there's a balance. I feel the same way, kind of, with something that you do part time, which is you are an ad hoc professor, correct?
I am.
Okay, and in
Not
my opinion,
adjunct. It's adjunct, not ad hoc.
adjunct. Excuse me. Adjunct professor, and in my opinion, education in this country has been, I think, something that has been used to financially enslave a generation of people, because a lot of people are taught, in my opinion, that you need to go into debt in order to get this quote unquote education, and to hopefully on the other end of it, be able to secure some sort of job and be able to, get yourself out of debt, which is sometimes a 20 to 30-year process. When what you don't have in certain communities is, like T.I. always says, his next door neighbor, after Ti went out and sold millions of records and things of that nature, his next door neighbor is a HVAC installer that puts in air conditioning. You know what I mean? The whole vocational way of educating a group of people, that's kind of being thrown out of the window. The guy who's the plumber that can make the same amount of money, if not more, than probably a doctor.
Hey Maynard,
But
hey Maynard, it sounds like Lamont's going a little long on this one. Is he going a little
yeah,
long on this
I'm
one?
going long. Yeah, I'm trying to defend it all the way around, but at the same time, I gotta say when Maynard's right, because I have heard some music and I've been a part of that I have gotten a check and I sit there and listen to it and say, oh my God, what is this foolishness? So Maynard, you get a W today. You feel better?
No, actually, I just want to say a
I
salute
don't.
to you, my dude. Salute, my man. You took one on the chin and you stood in there like a man. I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad, except you did kind of you took a stretch to be like, well, you're an adjunct professor and therefore you are enslaving people to a lifelong debt. But I mean,
Yes, and that's true. I mean,
it's not
you're
true.
part of that. Not you
It's not
personally, but you're part of that system because there's probably someone in that classroom that really can't afford to be there. So what they did was that they went to another institution that is, in my opinion, in bed, which is called a bank or some sort of other financial institution, and said, okay, well, we'll lend them money, and we're not going to really give them the money. We're going to give the money to the school, so the school can have more money, and we're going to hopefully, put something in this young person's brain. Maybe they retain it, maybe they don't, but they're still going to get charged for it.
So you're saying it's the same thing. You're
Yes, pretty
saying
much.
that we're
Oh,
all
you're
in.
saying
I
no.
mean, we're basically. I mean, you're saying that if you are, which goes back to Ben Carson and the mindset, right? I mean,
Hello.
because if you're talking about a college student who's saying, "I know that I am going to be financially in debt," which I think is better, but if your goal is to be able to become a homeowner and to become financially stable and to be able to have lifelong employment, education is the way. Am I wrong on that?
Half right. I mean, I
Okay.
think first of
We
all, let me
You
say
don't
this. Let me
have to
say
go
this.
the education route, but we're
To speak
basically taught that education is the route. But to
Hey,
Lamont's
first of
point,
all,
I'll say this and I'll be done. Even though you are enslaving people's minds, every college ain't for everybody. So you
no, it's
might have
not.
to go the route of I'm an entrepreneurial mind. And hip hop is my passion, and this is the way that I go, and I have to do it, unfortunately speaking, the truth of where I came from. Right?
I think that could be true if it were true, but it's not in many instances. So let me say this: education is always an asset. It doesn't mean it has to be college education. As Lamont basically said, vocational education is important to learn a trade. That could be helpful. The basics are learn English or the language in the country that you live in and math. Learn to communicate, learn multiple languages. That's important. If you want to go to college and you want to pursue something, there are things that you can only pursue through college. If you want to be a lawyer, you're going to have to go to undergrad, you're going to have to go to law school. You want to be a doctor, you have to go to undergrad, you can go to medical school. You can only pursue them certain ways. You want to be a plumber, or you want to be an HVAC professional, you can pursue that in a lot of ways. So there's apprenticeships, etc. Now, the idea that um, my profession or vocation may become rapper so I can go out here and tell the truth about where I'm from. We know that so often most of these cats are not telling the truth about where they're from. Most of these cats aren't living the lives that they're explaining and describing on records.
Some of them are.
So some are,
But you
but
also got to
most of them
look at it
aren't.
from a perspective. If I want to be an entrepreneur, I can also go the Bill Gates route. I didn't finish. He didn't finish college.
Yeah,
You can also
and
go the
I
Russell Simmons route. He didn't finish college. You can go the Steve
what
Jobs
what
route.
part of it did I say that you had to go to college? Did I not just say you could go to vocational school? You can educate yourself in many different ways. I just said
Okay.
that. Okay. You wanted to be contrary for the sake of being contrary.
Of course I did, but that's my role on the show.
And you know what, Spud? I want to interject something else that you said, man, because I remember this. I heard somebody say it, and I looked it up. Because you talked about some of the things that we're told and sold about, and then you talked about owning a home, and I remember I heard someone say that the word mortgage was a French word and that if you broke the two words up, that it meant death note. And it talked about in the 1800s that the French used that for people who had wanted to have somewhere to live, that they had to work this long period of time. And most of the time they ended up dying before it was paid off. So to me, I also think that home ownership is something else that's not for everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's just like college. Because again, for people who work these 30 to 40 to 50, sometimes 50 years in order to buy a home, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Again, that's just for
According to
me.
Reddit, mortgage comes from French. It means pledge to the death.
Yes. And I don't want that. Not for no 4 bedrooms or 2 baths. I'm good.
So
Nope.
you don't
I'm good.
believe? Let me go back to this, and we'll end on this because I know we went with we did a whole damn show at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So and I was telling you because I was listening to Dr. Ben's interview yesterday, and he talked about him and Armstrong Williams talked about home ownership is extremely important, and it is a financial is one of those freedoms that you need, and more people need that. And Armstrong Williams asked him, hey, why don't you think there are more African Americans, or are there things that are in the way of African Americans getting homes or buying homes? And he said, i.e., whether it be the bank or either be just systemic racism or whatever the case may be. And Dr. Ben said, basically, we need to give African American women the opportunity to have more access to money.
Oh,
And
geez.
I'm just telling you what he said. And he said, I'm only referring what he said. Go back and listen to the interview so that way you can, be able to hear for yourself. And he said, one of the problems is if you have an African American woman who has a child at a wedlock, and he said, one of the problems is the reason why more African Americans don't own a home is because most, we're having children out of wedlock. And he went on to say, but if you have a woman who's basically the primary caregiver of, the child, who has access to be able to earn money and still go to school so that way they can make more money to be able to afford a home, then we can basically eradicate that system or that situation. And I actually kind of agree with him on that. I think it is access to capital. Right? Because if you can't afford your home, you're going to foreclosure. So we'll end on this, people, because I know this is our Memorial Day show. We just wanted to come in and say we'll see y'all next week, but we did an hour and 15 minutes on this show. So Maynard, I'll let you speak to that. Lamont, you can respond, and then we'll go.
I'm not mad that we should provide access to capital. I'm not mad that we should try to help people learn how to become first-time home buyers and give them support in the home buying process with certain types of programs. I agree with that part.
You are a proponent, or you're somebody who actually feels like everyone should own a home. Am I right? You said that in previous episodes.
I feel no. What I said was home ownership is the greatest opportunity for intergenerational wealth that is accessible to the average American. Lamont made a statement the last go around when I made this comment about, what about gold and diamonds? But most Americans don't have the opportunity to purchase gold and diamonds in a fashion that will transfer 10, 20, 30, $40, $100,000 worth of wealth to the next person. So anyhow, what I learned, I don't know if this happened when you had your son Spud and Lamont. This is something that I want to share with you. It really freaked me out. When I had my daughter, they went in and they told my wife that here, I want you to sign here. And then she had to tell them that I was the father. I wasn't actually part of that decision making. They didn't include me in that. And there were questions that were asked, even though I was I had the benefits, that they were like, no, we'll get to you later. The idea that we're going to make certain that Black women have access to capital so that they can buy homes is the problem I continue to have with how if you go back and watch the movie Claudine, where they are trying to make certain that Black women and Black men can't make good Black families. They want Black men to be absent at every possible turn. And I have a problem with that.
Okay.
Maynard, 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 Maynard.
That is a whole other show we could spend another hour and a half on.
And that's what I said, Maynard. I think you are wrong almost 97% of the time. But that right there, my dude, you get the biggest W out of me. And historically, since we came to since we came to this country, that has been the goal. We could talk about, and you said another show. I had no idea that during slavery times that they had breeding plantations, that there was nothing there but black men, and their job was just to hump all day and all night, and they had to be stripped from their families. That whole family unit, since we've been here, has to be separated because the strength is in the black man in the family unit. You're right. You are
I'm
right,
gonna,
Playboy.
I'm gonna just respond to Lamont by saying one last thing in the words of Florida Evans. Damn, damn, damn! They wouldn't let James live. They would not let James live.
He's right on that, but I'm just gonna go back to, I think, a little bit more on the question. And I know, Spud, you said this is a Memorial Day show and it was short, but it's long. But I also think that part of that thinking that Ben and Armstrong were having is still the old school way of thinking, because this is the way I look at it. I think about two of today's biggest companies, which is Amazon.com and Uber.com. And you can talk about other ones that are there, but these are companies that they don't produce anything. They provide a service. Over 90% of the things that Amazon sells, they don't manufacture. They're just a middleman. So what I'm saying is, and the same thing with Uber. I took an Uber ride one day and started talking to the Uber driver, and he explained to me about how, out of the $50 to $60 ride, that Uber takes 45% of the money, period. Out of the rest of the money that he gets to keep, that, by the time you have to pay taxes and tolls, which it was 2 tolls to get from my house to the airport, where I was giving Uber $50, my man made about $8. I mean, that sounds like the hustle move to me on Uber's perspective. But I'm saying is that the guy who was really providing the real service, he got the short end of the stick. So again, even the same thing, and I don't know, I hadn't had real experience with the manufacturer, something that I bought off of Amazon. But what I'm saying is we got to adapt a new way of thinking and doing things, because the whole day of us going to buy a house and it's $40,000 and we're gonna pay it off in 20 years and hopefully it increases in value. That stuff is gone. And that whole mantra of, well, that they don't make any more land and we need to buy this land. Well, you know what? I don't know if that's 100% the way that we need to be thinking. So I'm just saying we gotta update our way of thinking, and we gotta update our way of doing
So
things.
if you had to tell the younger generation, for both of you guys, and we'll end on this for real, so what would you be telling the younger generation now? Because that's what we basically need to be telling this situation. If you're talking to a 25-year-old or a 22-year-old who's just out of college, and their way of thinking, because in other cultures they are basically teaching, go to school, get yourself a house, and be able to basically, or go to college, get married, get yourself a house, have babies, so forth and so on. That's the streamline of what they're teaching their kids. We're not teaching our kids that. So what are we telling our kids that they need to do when it comes to home ownership? Should that be null and void? Should they be renters for the rest of their life?
Well, I
is
think
slavery. Renting is slavery.
mm,
Renting is slavery.
uh,
It's the transfer of your wealth to someone else who can decide, next year I just want to raise your rent, or I don't really like you anymore. I want to put you out.
so then it's not slavery for that homeowner that bought a home 30 years ago at $70,000, and 30 years later it's now worth 5,000.
They own that place and it's theirs,
Or if you
right?
want an adjustable, rate mortgage for the bank to
Don't
be
get
able
in
to
the
tell
just
you,
don't get in the
but
just. Well,
some
you want
people,
to know that
again,
you
they
want.
don't know. Some
All
people
right,
don't
so
know.
all right, so here's my portion of the lesson. Don't get an exotic loan. Get a conventional loan. Get a 30-year loan. Check the interest rates. If you're getting something that's 4.25% or less, you're probably doing okay. If you're in the 8 and up, you're probably dealing with a predatory lender. So do your homework. Look for a home that you can afford, payments that you can afford in a neighborhood that you think is going to grow. And if you're going to make a 30-year bet on the property, make the 30-year bet. Don't think that if I buy this house in 3 years, it's going to increase in value and I'm going to sell it and make money. And don't borrow against your home to buy a car or to take a trip to Jamaica. If you need to borrow against your home for something, make that borrowing for an investment that's going to grow as well.
You know who you sound like, Maynard? You sound like the CEO of Kmart.
I don't know what the hell that means.
My point exactly. Where 20 years ago,
What is your
25
point exactly?
years ago, Kmart sold more underwear than Amazon.com. Now, Amazon.com sells more underwear than Kmart. And you damn near can't find a Kmart if they're not all closed, so to speak. So what I'm saying is that, yes, not for all, because the question was, what do you say to young people? And what I would say is very simplistic as this. When I was a child, they had something called an encyclopedia. Today, you have what's called an iPhone. That's in your pocket. You understand how it was before at one point in time, but understand that may not be the way that it is today, and to move beyond, because there is this thing called innovation, and with or without it, it's going to keep moving. So again, if you want to play the game that we played 25, 30 years ago, then go ahead and play that game. But you got to understand that the rules have changed, and definitely some young person that looks like me, you got to understand that the rules going to keep changing by the minute.
Well, both of you guys are right. I mean, the rules are going to change, and you have. I hope that you have traded in your encyclopedia for an iPhone or either something better that you can be able to get the information. But to Maynard's point, you do got to do your homework, where you are talking about buying a home in a neighborhood, one, that's going to grow. Two, that you're not in a situation where you are, you get into an adjustable rate mortgage, or you're with a predatory lender. Because a lot of people, especially in the African American community, what we do is we're so impulsive when it comes to buying things that we just sign on the dotted line, basically because we're trying to rush ourselves into a situation. We do that with cars all the time, and so I think that it is important for you to actually do your research when it comes to buying a home, because sometimes you could be in a situation where you're on a fixed mortgage for 3 years, and then after that you go to an adjustable rate mortgage, and then all of a sudden your mortgage goes from $1,000 a month to $2,500 a month, and you can't afford it, and you lose your home. So doing the homework, is definitely important. How you get that information is important. And again, you're right. I mean, the way we did it 25 years ago may not be the same, but you got to do your research either way. I know we've been going on for an hour and 30 minutes now, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to let y'all go and enjoy your Memorial Day, well, not necessarily Memorial Day, but, enjoy the rest of your week. Lamont, what are you doing today? You putting steaks on the grill, or, you like putting more stuff in your bunker, or,
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. We got delivery coming at 5 o'clock Pacific time. So we'll just kind of come above ground and wait on the delivery truck.
Well,
to come
you're in
and
Chicago, so are you on Central Time or are you on Pacific Time?
No, as I said, I'm at an undisclosed location.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Chicago's
He just don't know. He just don't know what time it is. That's all. He don't know what time. He don't know. You don't listen to Lamont. In fact, he didn't even say Pacific. He says specific time.
Right,
No, I did say Pacific, right? I meant Pacific. My fault. You got me.
It's not the 16th chapel. It's the 16th chapel.
Okay. You know what, man? You got 2 W's today, brother. You got 2.
Man, I got a couple.
I've always been. I got all the wins that Don Trump ain't getting.
Sure. That's easy to do. I can get more wins than Don Trump.
Not according to Lamont.
All right. We'll see
thank
y'all
you,
next
everyone.
week.
Have a good evening.
Have a great week. And we'll talk to y'all again next Tuesday on 3 Black Guys with the Mic.
Oh.